දවස් 30ක්ම unlimited Netflix බලන්න. unlimited data pack එකක් මුළු පවුලටම unlimited fun එකක් අරගන්න. අදම active කරගන්න.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, budget wish list. Hotels Association of Sri Lanka president says tourism industry recovery measures the key need in tomorrow's budget.
We have requested for a government grant or a concessionary loan to pay salaries of our most vulnerable employees.
Inevitable proof. Army commander says only time will tell if the government's virus efforts pay off or not.
So I believe the people of this country will judge whether we are successful or not.
The plot thickens. New Italian study likely to get Wuhan off the hook as evidence shows COVID-19 present in Italy from September. Up a tree. Former Minister Rishad Badiuddin gets slapped with a bill for reforestation of 2,300 devastated acres in the Vilpattu National Park. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Monday, the 16th of November, 2020.
Nava sunlight sakura. Then Dikukal pavathina sakura mal suwandin.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Ekanayaka. Now, with the budget set to be presented in Parliament tomorrow, our final budget expectations segment focuses on probably the worst hit sector from the double blow of the Easter Sunday attacks and the COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking to us today, the president of the Hotels Association of Sri Lanka, Sanath Ukpata, said that a majority of the industry's budget expectations are measures that could aid its survival in the form of concessionary loans to help pay the salaries of its most vulnerable employees. He added that the industry expects the budget to contain concerted efforts to help the industry recover.
We are the worst impacted industry in the country today, and naturally we depend on the government assistance to stay afloat. As part of the Hotels Association of Sri Lanka's budget proposals, we have requested for a government grant or a concessionary loan to pay salaries of our most vulnerable employees. This wage support scheme has got cabinet approval, and we hope the government will implement this soon. We have also requested to abolish highly discriminatory and unfair municipality and local government taxes based on 1% of turnover and replace it with a tax similar to all other industries. As we are exempt from VAT, we have requested the government to implement a SWAT scheme for tourism industry in the same lines with other export industries. Hotels are also subject to very high electricity rates, and we have requested from this budget a revision of electricity rates to be in line with other industries and extension of the moratorium on electricity payments to help overcome the present crisis. Going forward, we are proposing a government assisted mechanism to restructure hotel debt with a 2-year concession of interest by way of a government guarantee for banks once the moratoriums end in end of March next year, with a 10-year payback. Given its enormous ability to earn foreign exchange, generate employment, and support a wider section of the economy, we hope the government will continue to support us to ride over the most challenging times the industry has ever faced. Based on inquiries we are receiving from foreign counterparts and guests, we see a strong demand for Sri Lanka. So the industry feels it is important to open the airport for visitors, even in a limited way, following, of course, strict health guidelines. Therefore, we expect this forthcoming budget also focus on commencing the recovery process for the tourism industry and to minimize job losses and get travel and hotel industry, which play a critical role in the economy, back on track.
Now, turning our attention to the pandemic situation, Commander of the Sri Lanka Army, Lieutenant General Shavindra Silva, calls on the intelligent Sri Lankan populace to take the global COVID-19 situation into consideration when evaluating the state of affairs in the island. The chief of the National Operations Centre for Prevention of COVID-19 added that the virus situation is managed by the authorities, but ultimately its success will be open for judgment from the people.
Sri Lanka confirmed a total of 704 COVID-19 infections from the island yesterday, with the Colombo district accounting for the majority of cases with 541. Meanwhile, 39 infections were recorded from the Gampaha district, 8 from Galle, 7 from Batiklo, 5 from Kurunegala and 4 infections were reported from Ratnapura. Further 3 cases each were recorded from the districts of Kalutara, Kegal, Kandy and Badulla. 2 were confirmed from Puttalam, while 1 infection each was confirmed from Matale and Polonnaruwa. 54 police personnel, 13 prison inmates, 3 Sri Lankan returnees and 14 persons from various other locations are among the remaining 84 COVID-19 infections that were confirmed yesterday.
When I spoke to the medical officers at the Colombo Municipal Council, they mentioned that whoever who getting now positive are mostly also from the families who have already got COVID and they are getting treatment in hospital. Their family members are being getting positive during the last few days. Maybe the environment that they live, the house, the situation confined to a small area, these reasons may be the reason. However, initially during the second wave and the previously, we took a decision that we will take everyone for a quarantine center. However, due to the difficulties that was mentioned by the people of the country, we resort to put them onto a house quarantine purely because of their own request. However, unless people inside the house have discipline to isolate those positive or suspected people separately, this can spread within a house as well.
Meanwhile, the overall number of COVID-19 patients reported from the Minuwangoda and Palyagoda clusters currently stand at 14,017. That includes 229 fresh cases confirmed today. By 6 p.m. today, a total of 10,674 infections were attributed to the Palyagoda Fish Market cluster, while 3,114 cases were associated with the Minuwangoda Garment Factory cluster. Despite the increase in numbers of COVID-19 infections that have stemmed from these two clusters, Commander of the Sri Lanka Army Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva says that Sri Lanka's coronavirus situation must not be isolated from the situation elsewhere in the world.
In regard to whether we are successful in regard to COVID-19 in Sri Lanka, yes, one must understand the situation in Sri Lanka should never be isolated from the rest of the world. This is a world pandemic. The intelligent citizens of this country should compare the COVID-19 with other countries without thinking isolatedly about Sri Lankan situation. During this October 4th to date, till the government managed to conduct 5th year scholarship exam, although we had COVID. Advanced level that was conducted in Sri Lanka while we had COVID. We all have done the best of the best strategies was adopted and we have managed the situation up to now. So I believe the people of this country will judge whether we are successful or not.
Safeguard hand sanitizer නවතම නිෂ්පාදන පෙළ නීරෝගිමත් දිවියකට ලංකාවේ පළමු වරට හඳුන්වා දෙන මැලිබන් වෙජි ක්‍රැකර්
Crunchy veggie.
5 police areas in the Colombo district were isolated today, taking the number of areas under isolation in the country to 24. Since the emergence of the second wave of COVID-19 in early October, Colombo has become something of a hotspot for virus spread. Just as before, the epidemiology unit calls on people within isolated areas to maintain discipline and remain indoors. Those suffering from illnesses are urged to contact ambulance services when seeking help.
Sri Lanka at the moment is facing a tough period owing to the second wave of the coronavirus, which hit the island in early October. With that being the case, several police areas in the Colombo and Gampaha districts, which have been identified as high-risk zones, were placed under isolation in a bid to curb any possible spread of COVID-19. Accordingly, the police areas of Matakulia, Modara, Blomendal, Kotehena, Grand Pass, Forshaw and Barber Street, as well as Maligavatta, Dematagoda, Wellampitia, Borella and Kesalvatta in the Colombo district are still under isolation and have been since last Monday. In addition to that, the Gramanidadari divisions of and Angulana too were isolated. Furthermore, the police areas of Maradana, Fort, Peta, Slave Island and Dam Street were brought under isolation until further notice this morning in the government's latest move in tackling the COVID-19 spread.
The area that was isolated, the essential services and the main institutions were allowed to function, especially the headquarters of the banks, then electricity, water, the transport, the main station, port will function, main bus stand will function, then the court complex, the most important courts if required, the instructions have been issued for them to function, especially in Fort, Peta, Keselwatta, Dam Street and Slave Island areas. Only for those areas, whatever the essential office or institutions, head officers can function with effect today.
Meanwhile, in the Gampa district, the police areas of Nigambo, Jaela, Ragama, Kadawata, Wattala and Paliyogoda continue to be under isolation until further notice. The police area of Kalania too was added to the list of isolated areas in the district this morning.
We want to restrict people traveling from these areas to outside as much as possible in order to prevent the spread of the disease to other areas. So we expect that the people will adhere to these restrictions and stay at home. But if somebody is having some illness, should not stay at home, should seek medical care, and they can call 1999 and get advice, or call 1990 and get an ambulance to go to the hospital. So that we request the people, if they are having some illness, come forward and take treatment, and otherwise stay at home.
In another development, the travel restrictions imposed on the Western Province residents, preventing them from leaving the province, were lifted last midnight, allowing free movement for the residents outside the province. Following the lifting of the travel ban, the central bus stand in Peta and the Fort railway station were in operation since this morning to provide transport facilities for employees reporting to work. In the meantime, the police media spokesperson had this to say about the spreading of fake news pertaining to COVID-19 deaths on social media.
Another fake news was published and circulated in social media. That news stated that plenty of deaths happen in Sri Lanka on roads in respect of COVID positive patients. CID arrested a 35-year-old suspect a couple of days back in Kadugannawa area. So while the CID interrogated that particular suspect, it was revealed that this type of fake news are circulated in an organized way. We were able to trace the other connected suspect in this particular incident, and he is a 28-year-old person. He was arrested in Hantana in Kandy area yesterday. We are going to make a request from the court to remand the suspect for a period of 14 days in order to conduct further investigations.
Now, the Court of Appeal today ruled that the clearing of over 2,000 acres of forest land in the Vilpattu National Park and construction of housing units for resettling IDPs was illegal when a petition filed by the Centre for Environmental Justice was taken up today. With that, the court ordered respondent MP Rishad Badiuddin to personally bear the full cost of reforesting the cleared lands. An estimate for the process is to be submitted by the Forestry Department to the courts in 2 months.
The clearing of the Vilpattu sanctuary for the resettlement of over 2,000 internally displaced persons at the behest of former Minister Rishad Badiuddin saw public outrage being expressed at the wanton destruction of parts of Sri Lanka's largest national park. This led to the Centre for Environmental Justice filing a petition against the deforestation in 2015 in the Court of Appeal. In the petition, former Minister Rishad Badiuddin and a number of government institutions and officials were named as respondents. These include the Chairman of the Central Environmental Authority, the Director General of Forest Conservation, the Director General of the Department of Wildlife Conservation, the Commissioner General of Lands, the Mena District Secretary, the Secretary to the Ministry of Mahaweli Development and Environment, the Director General of the Department of Archaeology, and the Attorney General. The petition filed by the Centre for Environmental Justice stated that 2,388 acres of the Marichukkadi Karadikkuli Forest Reserve at the northern boundary of the Vilpattu National Park have been destroyed through illegal clearing. In the petition, the Centre for Environmental Justice urged the Court of Appeals to issue a restraining order to prevent further clearing and construction in the reserved forest area. After considering the facts of the petition, the Court of Appeal set a final decision on June 5, 2018, but on 4 occasions the setting of a date for a ruling was postponed. Although the verdict in this case was scheduled to be announced in August 2019, Court of Appeal Judge Mahinda Samewardana, who heard the case initially, refused to pronounce the verdict, and the new bench decided to reconsider the petition from the beginning. Accordingly, the petition was recalled before a bench consisting of Justices Janak De Silva and Nisanka Bandula Karunaratna. With that, the Court of Appeal ruled today that the clearing of the Kallaru Reserve in the Vilpattu Forest Reserve and the subsequent construction of settlements in the cleared areas was illegal. The court also ordered former Minister and Wani District Parliamentarian Rishad Bathyuddin, who was named as the chief respondent in the petition, to undertake the reforestation of the cleared areas at his personal expense. The court ordered that the Director General of the Forestry Department inform court of the full cost estimate of the process within a 2-month period and to also inform the parliamentarian of the same for full payment to be made within a month of the notification.
We will see you shortly on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Ceylon Bank, the bank with a heart.
Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, the Presidential Commission probing the Easter Sunday spate of terror from last year heard today that the residence of attack suspect Mohinuddin Izan Ahmed was frequented by 2 former ministers, with one being MP Rishad Bathyuddin. It also heard that Bathyuddin had called at the residence 2 days after the suspect was arrested following the attacks. DP Samar Singha, the Grama Niladhari of the Dehiwala Grama Niladhari division, gave evidence today before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the Easter Sunday terror attacks. The State Council asked the witness whether he knows information of a person by the name Mohinuddin Izan Ahmed. The witness replied that Mohinuddin Izan Ahmed is the son of Muhammad Hanifa Mohinuddin, who was a resident at the rented property with the address 211/8 Galwala Road, Dehiwala. He added that he looked into the contacts of Mohinuddin Izan Ahmed following requests from security units, and he found that Izan Ahmed had maintained links with brothers Muhammad Akram Auken and Muhammad Akram Sajiha, who were arrested from the area after the Easter attacks, as well as with Buhari Muhammad. The State Council then asked the witness whether he uncovered any information about a VIP visiting Mohinuddin Izan Ahmed. In reply, the Grama Niladhari of Dehiwala said that the neighbours of the address where Mohinuddin Izan Ahmed resided told him former ministers Rishad Bathyuddin and Mohammed Halim frequented the residence. Afterwards, the owner of the residence at the address 211/8 Galwala Road, Dehiwala, Dhammika Priyantha Samarsingh, was convened to give evidence before the Commission. He told the Commission that Mohinuddin Izan Ahmed was arrested by officers of the Terrorist Investigation Division after the attacks on the 26th of April. The witness said that 2 days later, former Minister Rishad Bathyuddin, accompanied by his security personnel, came to the residence of the arrested suspect and left after around 30 minutes. The UK Foreign Office is accused in British media for resisting publishing files allegedly relating to its diplomatic support for British mercenaries in the 1980s in Sri Lanka. Now, the media reports say that the refusal by the UK Foreign Office comes despite the Metropolitan Police launching an unprecedented inquiry into potential war crimes, by those individuals. An investigative journalist is taking the FCO to an information tribunal over the release of files dating back to 1985 on Keeny Meeny Services, which is one of Britain's first mercenary companies. The file relates to the extent of UK government support for the mercenaries, training Sri Lankan security forces, and the roles they were asked to undertake. The UK government is citing international relations and information provided in confidence for keeping the 1985 files secret. Its decision has been endorsed by a national advisory body at the National Archives. The UK government's own rules say that diplomatic files should normally be released after 20 years, not 60, as stipulated with this file. Now, it was a historic day for the Sri Lanka Air Force today as it commissioned its first 2 women pilot officers. The 2 women officers were commissioned at the Air Force Academy, China Bay, this afternoon after being presented with their pilot badges and will serve as light aircraft pilots. Further, the ceremony also saw the coveted Sword of Honour being presented to a woman cadet for outstanding overall performance for the first time in Sri Lanka Air Force history. The ceremony was presided over by Defence Secretary Major General Kamal Gunaratne and Commander of the Sri Lanka Air Force, Air Marshal Sudarshana Patirana. The grade 5 students who sat for the scholarship examination last October got their results last evening. Now, examination this time became a challenge for the candidates since it was held at a time where Sri Lanka was experiencing a fresh outbreak of COVID-19. According to the results released, it is remarkable that 10 students were able to score the full marks. In the meantime, the Department of Examination says that places according to the district or island will not be announced this year. It also added that the results obtained by students will be mailed to their respective schools in the near future. What's more, Commissioner General of Examinations Sanat Pujitha said that information pertaining to recorrection appeals on results will be informed later. We will see you shortly. Bear with us. Welcome back. You're watching First at Night. Now, taking a look at the Colombo Bourse, Sri Lankan shares closed a touch lower for the third straight session today. Unfortunately, let me get that up. Technical difficulties, I say. They were weighed down by losses in financial and consumer goods stocks. Now, the benchmark all-share price index ended 0.09% lower, while the S&P SL20 index of more liquid stocks fell 0.47%. Now, here's a brief report on today's market performance.
Today also we saw a bit of a negativity in the market as the SPI declined by about 5 points. So a lower level of negativity similar to last few days. We are seeing mixed reactions. So the overall market seems to be at a stagnant positions, and over the past 1 week becoming positive and negative as the week progressed. This is mainly because of the upcoming budget. So we have the budget speech coming up tomorrow, and with that the buying interest of the investors seem to have dried out, and with it overall activities of the market has significantly come down. So with that what we are seeing is turnover levels are also around 1.4 billion. However, this is quite low compared to the high level of turnovers that we've seen over the past 3 to 4 weeks. Even retail activity is down to around 15,000 transactions during the day, where at the peak we saw somewhere in between 30,000 to 40,000 transactions.
Now, taking a look at the currency market, the rupee was quoted weaker at 184 rupees and 90 cents to 185 rupees and 15 cents to the US dollar today. And it closed at 184 rupees and 75 to 80 cents to the dollar on Friday. Now, let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.